Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hobby Lodge, and in this video I'm going to do a pickups video, which I haven't done one in such a long time, but if you're interested in some of the bits I've picked up, let's crack on with it. And yes, so here we are. It turns out I haven't done a pickups video since October 2023. I've done a few bits where I've been to shows and stuff, but not actually sat down and showed you all the things I've picked up. So in this one, I'm certainly not going to be showing you everything for the past year and 4 months. That would be ridiculous. So I am going to pick out the more recent things that I've picked up, and then just a smattering of bits and pieces that have been quite important over the year. Because I think it'd be nice to show those things. Certainly in here, lots has changed, and I am going to do a bit more of in-depth room tour soon to take you through all the various bits and pieces that have gone on. Things like the Vectrex, which is in the room now, the Mega CD, which is in the room now, the Panasonic 3DO, Arte mode set up for things like shoot 'em ups on the Switch and Xbox 360, stuff like that. So there's been a whole bunch of things, even the table and what's going on with that behind me. 3D printers have changed, all sorts of things have changed. So there's going to be a lot going on, and I'm going to show you as much of that as I can. Let's start showing some bits and pieces. So I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, so there's hopefully something for everybody here. But I'm going to start off with a gift, and this is a gift from my friend Alex Arcade. He came to see me and did a little bit of recording, so who knows, hopefully you'll see a bit of a video on his channel soon, which I'll link below, of his visit to the Hobby Lodge. But he gifted me this, which is the Oliver Frey art book. So if you don't know who Oliver Frey is, you do, because you would have seen his artwork in most old school 8-bit video games, Crash Magazine, Zap 64s, tape, various artwork for various tape games, and just huge amounts of. I'm looking at this and it's not really fair because I'm not showing you. But what I will do, maybe if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll do a bit of a thumbing through on the book, and I'll show you some of the amazing artwork that's in this book. But it's just a nice thing to have, especially in Commodore Corner, because there's a lot of representation of his artwork in the various games that I own. And it's great to be able to just have a little look through this, especially when you're waiting for that tape to load. But yeah, it's a really nice gift. You keep looking through this and seeing just things that spark memories from whether you saw it on a magazine cover or on a tape cassette cover. Just so many bits of artwork in here, and obviously, sadly, he passed away not too long ago. So yeah, really glad to have this. Thank you, Alex. That's a great gift to have given me. Um, while we're here talking about great artwork for Zap 64 or Crash Magazine, one of the other picks ups I got was actually you have to say the in front of it, the Spectrum. So this is the new machine that came out from the guys over at Retro Games, and this is like it's a true representation of the actual Spectrum machine. So the other mini consoles that have come out have been very different. They have been more microed. So the Amiga, for instance, this is obviously nothing like an Amiga. It is essentially a retro Pi, but a Pi inside of an Amiga looking mini case. But there's nothing Amiga about it, frankly. But this is a proper rubber keyed, keyboarded machine. Of course, it's still doing emulation, but not many people would be able to tell, especially if you booted it into its native sort of Spectrum mode, where it actually takes you to the loading screen, that you weren't using a Spectrum, apart from you're not connected to a tape, although I'm sure you could. But yeah, a great little device for me. I wasn't a Spectrum guy when I was young. You all know we joke all the time in the Spectrum and Commodore communities. I am a Commodore kid, and therefore it's nice for me to have to go and see what's going on in the world of Spectrum, especially in the homebrew scene. There's some fantastic homebrew games on the Spectrum. I'll give them credit there. It's a well-supported community, and there's been some great games on there. And I can tell you what, and I know I joke about it all the time, but frankly, there is a charm. Like, I know we always go on about the color clash and the Commodore Brown versus the color clash of Spectrum, but some games just do play so well on the Spectrum, and I know by saying this I'm crucifying myself with that community because they will never let me live it down. But I've played some cracking games on this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out more. Let's mix it up. Let's take a look at some tabletop stuff. For those who've watched the channel, you know that I love a tabletop game called Moonstone, made by Goblin King Games, and they've recently had a Kickstarter that was, I think, nearly maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, for a new faction, the Shades of Moonreach. I want to make sure I get that name right. I've got it written over there. Yeah, this is an entirely new faction to the previous 3 factions. So there's now 4 factions in the game. And the Kickstarter was essentially to get the entire range built, and you could get the whole lot. Otherwise, when it comes out for release, you're then buying the individual boxes. It's always nice to get the full range. So I now have that full range. Now, I'm not going to sit here and show you the full range. It's about 12 boxes of miniatures, but I thought I'd just pick up a few and just show you what this is. So essentially, the Shades of Moonreach are the undead faction, for better want of a better word. So you've got these guys here, for instance, this kind of lord on his horse with his servant there with the candles, and you can see on the back the actual miniatures. They're very nice miniatures. They mostly come in 1 or 2 pieces, very easy to build, but wonderful to paint. They really are, and they're very quirky. As I've said before, with Moonstone, the influences of things like Jim Henson's workshop are really evident here, like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. So you've got the Freaky Fug Day. You can see them on the back. Yeah, some really, and again, I can show some images of the painted stuff I have done. This one's great. This one's called the Nanny. You can see she's very pantomime-esque, a bit freaky, that she's got these kind of little baby demons that she's looking after. Yeah, and they play, the gameplay is a fantastic game. Like I said before, has a really cool bluff mechanic in there where you're telling your player you may be doing one thing and they have to guess whether you are or aren't doing that thing, and then good things, bad things can happen. But it's not just a game about going out and killing your opponent. It's about outplaying your opponent, one, by killing some of them, but also out maneuvering them in the table to gain the most Moonstone. That's how you win. You win with getting Moonstone. You don't win by just killing your opponent. So you have to balance what it is you're doing on the table and use the mechanics in there to your advantage. So really fun game. I'm definitely going to be doing more on it this year. Some let's plays and some actually doing some live gameplay of it, stuff like that. So yeah, Moonstone, like I said, there's another 4 boxes up there, no, 6 boxes up there that I haven't shown you. So yeah, I thought I'll just go through some new miniature stuff that I'm going to be getting on the table. Okay, why don't we jump into some music? Some music would be really cool, right? So 2 new things I've picked up, and both of them are very special to me because of just the way I grew up and my favorite music. The first one is this. So I got this for my birthday last year, and I don't think I ever showed it to anybody. So it is a discography, probably be a word, from, I think this was like 1997 or something, and it is essentially a nice collection of Iron Maiden CDs. You've got the likes of the Iron Maiden, Killers, Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, which is a great album, Life After Death, Summer in Time, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, another fantastic album, probably is my favorite. No Prayer for the Dying, Fear of the Dark, A Real Live Dead One, and Live at Donington. And as you can see, it kind of makes the Iron Maiden album cover on the front, on the side, but the actual CDs themselves are the full CD. So there's Summer in Time there. So yeah, really happy to get this. I think it's a great little set, and yeah, really love that. So Iron Maiden is probably my favorite band of all time. I listen to it all of the time, which is why it's going to make the next thing a bit juxtaposition to that, but that's what it is. So the next thing I bought, which actually was for Christmas, was this, which is the Madonna discography. I can't say that word. This is embarrassing, but I'm just going to stick with the way I'm saying it. But it's not an entire album collection. This is from 1983 to 2008, which is probably where I'm at with Madonna. Certainly, I kind of lost it in the noughties, as it were. I'm much more of an 80s and 90s Madonna man, and mostly that's because of growing up in the family, and my brother was a massive Madonna fan. He had all of her LPs and he would play them all of the time. So because we shared a bedroom back then, I kind of got that from him, right? So I wanted to pick this up. Well, I bought it by my wife, and as you can see inside, now this one's a bit different because they're not all hard case CDs. Inside of here you've got these kind of carded albums. So you can see here you've got obviously Madonna, You've got True Blue, you've got everything. I'm not really showing those on camera, but they're a bit hard to hold. I don't want them all to fall down. But essentially, you've got all these kind of carded albums here of Madonna. That's really cool because I've now got my stereo, which is over my left shoulder here. That is the stereo I had, or the same make and model that I had when I was a kid. And that's something else that I haven't really told anyone that I picked up. But yes, I have that stereo. I had to do a bit of work to get it fixed. Unfortunately, the guy that shipped it to me from Facebook didn't package it very well, so it arrived with a broken CD tray, a dent in the side of it, and I had to do a bit of panel beating and a bit of repair work to get it up and running, replace all the bands, etc., etc. But I am happy now that it is working, and it means I can put these in. Like, it's not a fancy stereo; it's a Sony RX70, but it's special to me because that is the one I had in my bedroom. And you know what it's like when you get your first TV or your first stereo in your own bedroom when you're a kid. It holds a special place, right? It's like you're starting to feel like you're a grown up when you've got a hi-fi in your room. So yeah, that was really, really cool. Right, let's just maybe look at some modern gaming now. So these are some bits and pieces I've picked up. Some of these are influenced by my friends. I don't know how many of us do this, but one of the reasons why I don't always do pickups videos or watch pickups videos, I do try and watch them, is because often you end up buying stuff based on the video you just saw, and this is no different from that. So certainly, yeah. So a couple of games that I know, I think Sega Zombie and a few others were talking about on the Switch, and that is Demon Throttle and Gear Shifters. I think Gear Shifters has been talked about quite a lot on the internet as just a really fun, probably more of a mobile game, but plays almost like a road-based shoot 'em up. It's a left to right shoot 'em up, but instead of the classic spaceships and monsters, you've got cars and trucks and vehicles, and you're getting power-ups, and you're leveling your car up as you go, and it's almost like a roguelite in that you get better and better each time, and the more you get powered in your car. Yeah, but it plays very much like a shoot 'em up would do, but on the road, which is quite unique. So that's quite nice that that's there. And Demon Throttle is a bit like it's a 8-bit styled top-down, again, shooter, but in the style of is it Pocky and Yoki? I can't remember. I'm not. It's not my type of thing. But you can't help it when your friends tell you there's a really good game. You kind of want to give it a go. I mean, I've just opened it up, and how disappointing that there's literally nothing in these anymore. How disappointing are modern games from when you look inside. But anyway, yes, a couple of new Switch games to give a try. These will be good for when I'm on the train or something, and I certainly will give them a play. But yeah, just some simple games. Right, the next one is something that I really want to give a go this year, and that is trying to get into, or at least give a chance to, JRPGs. Right, so someone like Generation Pixel, if you ever watch any of his videos, he's always talking about JRPGs. I think his top 5, top 10 games was pretty much all JRPGs. It's a genre that he really loves. And I never want to just close a door to something. I always want to try and give something a fair crack and see if it's something I can enjoy. And I have played, I don't know if you can call them, but I've played the more action-orientated JRPGs. So Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 16. I've completed both of those, but they are much more just hack and slash. Yes, there is some RPG elements in there, but I would definitely say they're much more like a Devil May Cry type of game than what I think of like a traditional JRPG. I thought what would be really cool is to go right back to the beginning and try some of the very early ones and see how they are. So I picked up this, which is the Final Fantasy collection, which, as you can see there, has 6 games on it, from Final Fantasy 1 through to 6. And of course, everybody talks about Final Fantasy 7, which I do own on the PS1. So if I get there, then I'll give that a go. And maybe I'd have gotten the bug by then. But I picked this up because I've heard good things about that. It's modernized some of the controls. It's modernized some of the UI pieces. And just made some creature comforts into these games so that they're a bit easier to get on with from their original games, which would have been out on the NES. So yeah, I thought I would give those a go. They might be something again that when I'm away from home or I've got a long journey to do, that I can fire up one of these and give it a play through. So I think that's the best way to start. I'd love to hear if you think there's a better way for me to get into some of these, because I don't think I'm ready for some of the big games like the the Persona games, or the game that just won Game of the Year, Metamorphosale. I can't remember what it's called, but that's another huge JRPG. So, like I say, they might not be for me. I'm also totally fine with discovering that actually these games are just not my type of game. But I do like RPGs. I've just played Baldur's Gate 3 3 times, and spent nearly a few hundred hours playing those games. So perhaps if I can find the right game with the right story, then I'll get into it. So anyway, yeah, that's the plan with that, is to give it a go and then make my own mind up on whether I think there are games that I would enjoy or not. I'll do some quick fire PS5 stuff. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, it's probably worth showing these. Funny enough, I just spoke about JRPGs on the NES and getting the Final Fantasy games, and I have 2 JRPGs in my hands right now. But again, I'm not necessarily playing these at the moment. So the first one is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The reason why I have this is my son Blake has just completed the remake for Final Fantasy VII. He actually really enjoyed it. He's not played the original, so his first experience of Final Fantasy VII is the remake. So he picked up the second one so he can do it, and he's already started playing this. I think he's maybe 40 hours into this already. So yeah, he's enjoying that. Next up is that game I mentioned, Metamorpho, ReFantazio. I think that's how you say it. Again, this one Game of the Year, and I think is in most people's eyes the best game that came out in 2025. Not if you don't like JRPGs, I'm going to say, but that's kind of why I want to give it a go, because if a game can win Game of the Year, then surely I should have a look at it and give it a chance, right? So yeah, I picked it up so that I can, when I've kind of got my teeth into these sorts of games, I can give it a real good crack and just see if it is it me or is it them, so yeah, there's that. Of course I've got this game. Why wouldn't I have Space Marine 2? It is 40k in gaming form. 40k is a universe that I've loved for very many years. Obviously from the tabletop scene, I've painted more miniatures in the 40k era than anything else. I have an entire Necron army behind me in the cabinet there, Demons army, Space Marines, we have in the house Sisters of Battle, Tyranids, and there's another one as well that's gone out of my head, but we have so many, and I have boxes of unpainted miniatures as well in this scene. So it's a game that we have loved and played, certainly more older editions than newer editions, and obviously I've played the first Space Marine as well, so this is well worth picking out. In fact, we own this several times because we also own it on PC, because multiplayer is much easier for us to do on PC together as a family. So yeah, Space Marine 2 on the PS5. This one, again, not had a chance to play it yet, but I've seen it, and since being a fan of things like Dark Souls games, and it was well worth picking up the Black Myth of Wukong. Now, I know it's not a Souls-like game. I think it sits somewhere in the middle between hardcore difficulty and tactical fighting, and hack and slash. I think it has a nice place in the middle. I don't believe it's as hard as your Dark Souls 3s, your Elden Rings, these sorts of things. But I loved Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time. And if this is anywhere near as good as that, then this is definitely worth checking out. And of course, it's an amazing world that it's in. So yeah, gotta play that one and give it a chance. So yeah, I'm not played it yet. I've seen plenty about the game. It looks really interesting and really good. But I'm going to be playing that. Another one is another game. You can tell a theme here. I might have been influenced by the Game of the Years. Is Astrobot. Everyone knows what Astrobot is, and I think it well deserved also its awards. I think this may have actually been the overall Game of the Year, I think. But we've played it and completed it. That is how good it is. It is a proper fun platforming adventure game, and it deserves all of the credit it gets for something that was probably meant to have been a tech demo, a throwaway demo to come through with your PlayStation back in the PlayStation 4, I think was the first Astrobot. It's now developed into being the mascot for PlayStation, and has a worthy game to show off all of the cool things you can do. So yeah, well done to Astrobot for doing that. You've become a new new icon for an era of gaming. Okay, let's show some films, because recently I've made a bit of a pivot. I was picking up DVDs or Blu-rays of some of my favorite films of all time, and it was a very wide genre. It was some martial arts films, fantasy films, space films, sci-fi, all these sorts of things. And I realized that that was a rabbit hole that would be endless, and I would get myself into trouble as far as just collecting a bunch of films. I'm probably not going to watch that often. So I've decided to completely stop that. In fact, I got rid of a bunch of movies the last time I went up to the Retro Realm. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. But what I am going to do is start collecting my all-time favorite movies in the fantasy genre, because I made a video a long time ago now talking about my favorite movies and my favorite genre. My favorite genre is fantasy, like high fantasy, Lord of the Rings, that type of stuff. So that's what I'm going to collect movies for, like 4K editions or Blu-ray, because not all 4K movies are actually good. They've been I've learned this recently from my friend Nerdy Geezer, who now has a really good reference website for you to find out, is the 4K movie a true 4K movie, or are you best off just getting the Blu-ray? That's as good as it gets, because the uplift is been done through AI and a bunch of other trickery. It's not really a true 4K movie. So anyway, I'm going to stick to those movies that are legendary to me, fantasy films, and again, high fantasy specifically. Yeah, this is kind of what I've been picking up. It starts off with, of course, because I've mentioned it already, my favorite film trilogy of all time, and that is The Lord of the Rings. So this is the 4K box set for this. You get both the theatrical release and the extended edition, which is the only edition you should be watching. If you're not watching Lord of the Rings extended edition, what are you doing? So yeah, and what's so great is the movies are so big. The extended edition on 4K is across 2 discs. So you have to do that classic of getting up halfway through your film to change your disc over, which there's a charm there that I just love, even though it's a massive inconvenience. To me, that is such a callback to when you used to have to do things like this, like flip the disc over on early DVDs or on Laserdisc, and so on and so forth. So, or if you had a movie split across 2 cassettes, which did used to happen, or two VHSs, I should say. So yeah, it's a really great. I'm really happy to have this. I've already watched the first one, and it's brilliant. The quality is fantastic, and yeah, I'm really happy to have this. Next up, we have another couple of classics. We have Clash of the Titans, and what more can I say about this film? Fantastic. Again, in that high fantasy space, an amazing. I love this film. I love this film so much. I've seen it so many times. It's untrue. So it had to go into my new high fantasy collection. The one up from that. Oh, and this, by the way, these both come. So what I'm showing you here in Clash of Titans, I'm just going to take this out of the packet, because otherwise it's going to reflect terribly on the screen. Yeah, Clash of the Titans and this one, Krull, both came from the Retro Realm. So this is the shop that Scott Sega Zombie owns and runs, based up in Ipswich. Not been, you should definitely go look it up, and if you're anywhere near the Ipswich area, go and see Scott's shop. He has some amazing stuff. But yes, Krull is this, I mean, to me it's high fantasy, even though there's lasers and all sorts of stuff in this movie. But of course, the majority of the film takes place in that classic high fantasy setting. There is sword fighting, there is Cyclops, there is horses that create fire when they run, there is obviously the awesome Krull weapon, yeah, this is just a cool film again. That's gonna go there. And there's going to be loads of others, right? I've already seen, I think that Beastmaster has a release on 4K coming out soon. There's going to be so many films, but it is going to be that I'm going to go for. There is one exception, although I would say it is high fantasy. There's sword fighting in it. There's magic in it, but it's maybe not same setting. But I could not get this, because it is one of my favorite films of all time, and it is The Highlander on 4K. probably the greatest um, album video that's ever been created. Because I had this conversation with someone the other day. Is the movie a 5 out of 10 movie or a 6 out of 10 movie? It's probably a 5 out of 10 movie, right? But then you add the Queen soundtrack on top, and all of a sudden you've got an 8 or a 9. So and I think if you just uh, cut the rest of the film out and just had the music videos to go along with the songs, this would make an awesome album to listen to. So yeah, I wanted to get this. I'm going to say it fits in my high fantasy, but I may be stretching out a little bit. But it was well worth getting. So yeah, that is a Highlander on 4K again, and one of the amazing film, one of the amazing soundtrack. There is only one. There is only one movie. I was not a fan of the follow-ups and was not a fan of the TV series. That is the only Highlander I want to see. And who knows what happens with a potential remake. Henry Cavill, what band are they going to get to do the music? Oh, it fills me with fear. Let's talk breakfast. In the morning, you've got your Rice Krispies, and when you got your Rice Krispies, you poured them out into your bowl. And what happened? A little package might fall out of that cereal, and that little package could look something like this. And when you turned it over, there was a monster in my pocket in there. I had to pick these up. So again, I said to you, I went to see Scott at the Sega Zombie Retro Realm, and he had these in a box, and I couldn't leave them there because this actually happened to me. Like this exact one. This I can remember. I don't even have to turn him over. I know exactly what he looks like on the other side. He's a Frankenstein wrestler, and he is from the Monster in My Pocket series. I think the later series. I think it might have been like series 3 or 4 when they started doing the wrestlers, and they'd moved away from doing the really rubbery monsters, which I have a bunch of those. But this is. I can't believe this is still in its packet. Now the nice thing is, he also had one that was opened, so I didn't need to take him out of his packet. So I'm going to keep this in the packet. But what an awesome thing, because this happened. It doesn't happen anymore. There isn't cereal out there anymore that has a little toy surprise or whatever in there. And I don't know what the rule was in your house, but in our house it was whoever poured and it came out with that pour, that's who got the toy. But of course, every single one of us went sieving through the cereal to find this, and maybe just made it conveniently fall out when we did our pour. But yeah, it was so cool to see that in its original packet. It's not opened anyway. It's not completely sealed in there. But that is what essentially is in there. The little Monster in My Pocket wrestler, and he had a bunch of these, so I had to pick them up because I love the pocket money toys. Muscle Men, Monster in My Pocket, Battle Beasts, all these sorts of things. They're just so cool because this is what you could get. Like you didn't have much money back in the day. The pocket money toys, the Garbage Pail Kids, the cards, this sort of stuff. This is what you got. This was it, and you made your fun with these. You would wrestle these things against each other. You would play little games with them. So he just had a little collection. I didn't go crazy. I just picked up the ones that he had there, and yeah, I'll put a little shelf out because I can 3D print these little shelves like where I have my Muscle Men and my Monster in My Pocket, and I can pop them out. But that one is going to stay in its packet forever, as far as I can concerned. Well, as long as I own it. I mean, someone else may own it in the future. He did have a couple of Battle Beasts, so I have a little collection of Battle Beasts, and I thought I would add to them. So we got this one here. If you don't know what Battle Beasts are, essentially they are those pocket money toys. They have movable arms and they came with weapons, and they have a little hologram on their chest, and you would press on the hologram, and I think you either got fire, wood, water. I think were the 3. I think that was it. And this one's wood, for instance. I just pressed him and you're there. You basically use your heat in your finger to heat up the hologram, and then it would show you what it is. Now, of course, those holograms do die off. They are also just sticky, so they do fall off. So I have a couple where they've fallen off, but both of these have the holograms on them. You've got this kind of rhinoceros and crocodile, and yeah, they will go in my little collection of Battle Beasts just in front of me here. So yeah, and then he had these, and I just picked them up because he had them. I don't have any of these, so I won't be collecting these, but it's nice again. I like to have little bits around the room that when you look, you just see something you haven't seen before. So these are the Boglins. So not the big Boglins that were hand puppets, basically. These are like more the ones you'd have got in a blind bag or something. And there's a very classic looking one here, if I didn't just drop him. But there we go, little Boglin characters. Again, not going to go crazy with them, just little things to put around the room, just make it interesting in here, something to catch your eye. And there we go. Right, next up, a couple of Nintendo games. Again, I could show you 50 games I've picked up on various consoles in the short weeks, but this video would be massively long and you would be bored if you're not already. So I'm going to talk about two games that are recently just ones that I've really enjoyed. One influenced again by a friend, and that game was Roller Games on the NES. So here we go. This is Roller Games on the NES. Definitely worth checking out. A super cheap, not super cheap, but I think I paid £5 or £6 for this game, and I only collect unboxed games. As I've said this before, I'm not want to be messing with cardboard and trying to preserve it and all this sort of stuff, so I always just pick up loose cards. I think boxed, this is a 20 to £25 game, but it's really interesting. It is a classic beat 'em up. So your Double Dragons, your Streets of Rage type of game, but then it's got different elements in it to obviously to deal with the rollerblading stuff. So it's got some cool moves in it, and it plays really nicely. So definitely worth checking out. If you haven't already got roller games, it's not an expensive game to get hold of, and it's just a little bit different from your standard left to right scrolling beat 'em up. And then this game, which as you can see was a fiver because it's got the £5 sticker on it, Solar Jetman. This was great. I played this on a live stream. I do a thing called Monday Night Retro, in case you don't know. Every Monday night, 8 o'clock, I live stream playing some video games. I did my 100th episode last year, end of just before Christmas. So yeah, we're getting ready for episode 101 in the new year. And I played this probably, I don't know if it was episode 98, 99. We did some NES. I think it was 98 because 99 was Spectrum, so 98 was probably Nintendo. And this was great. Really, really enjoyed. This is a game I could go back to again and again. I really am a bit of a sucker for that momentum type game. So going back to the early days of like Thrust and games like that, where once you've picked something up, you then have to account for the weight and the motion of the thing you've picked up, because your ship is using its thrust and energy to head in a direction, and it's being counterbalanced by something you're carrying or pick or whatever. So those games, I think they have such a great feel to them, and if done well, they do genuinely feel like you're being dragged and pulled in different directions, and you have to counterbalance and make your way around objects and deliver the package to wherever it may be. And this is all that. This is all of that, and also being attacked by monsters and all sorts. So and it has a really cool thing that if you get hit, your ship explodes, and then you are then floating around the space, and you have to get back to your rocket, your main base, to pick up a new ship, while still using the same jetpack mechanics. So yeah, really, really fun game. If you haven't played this, for the sake of a fiver on the NES, I don't know if it came out on any other systems, but really, really fun game, and I thoroughly enjoyed playing it. So yeah, if you can, check it out and have a play. It wouldn't be a pickups video if I didn't talk about Commodore in both Commodore Amiga and Commodore 64. So let's show you some of the bits and pieces I've picked up. Again, I could go on for ages. I've built an entire Commodore Amiga collection in the past year. I've added so many games to the Commodore 64 collection, but I'm not going to sit here and take you through every single one of them. What I might do is I might make dedicated videos to some of those things and talk about some of my real memories of those systems and why I got the games I got, and maybe some gameplay of them. I regularly play the Commodore 64 and the Commodore Amiga on Monday Night Retro, so there'll be plenty more to see there. So I just picked up some bits. So firstly, I'll show you some new homebrew. Now, in the last video I did, an updates video, I did talk about these briefly, so I thought I'd just show them in a bit more detail. And that is that the team over at Cytronics, and they're really good at doing Commodore 64 homebrew. In fact, they do a bunch of systems, but I think they probably focus more on Commodore 64 than anything else. That is always a trend. You always find these companies tend to be more focused in one area than the other. They've started releasing these almost like hit squad level games. So I'm just seeing what order I've got them in here. So that one needs to move. Yeah, so these are games like this. So this is Harrigan, which is a really good game. But what I want you to notice is the way it's laid out. As you can see, it's been numbered. It has a very distinctive visual to it. The side is also, you know, very akin to your Kicks or your Hit Squads collections. And this is something they're now doing. So releasing games to make them highly collectible. But of course, they've suckered me in. Yes, currently there are 5 games in this collection, and there will definitely be more added. So as I showed you before, there is Harrigan, which is like an action platformer. You've got Good Night, which is a precision platform jumping game. So you're making your way left from right, loads of obstacles, get to the end of the level, capture the flag, move on to the next level. Really quick. And you know, good memory game, but also precision jumping. So if you're into that type of thing, you'll really like that. Inbred, which sounds like a really funny name, but it is essentially making sandwiches in a puzzle game. So you're dropping different ingredients based on what's being requested by the customer, ingredients from the roof into the sandwiches, and trying to get it in the right order to make the order that's been requested. B52, a mix of a sort of shoot 'em up and almost like a fantasy zone type game where you're going out to pick out various items and complete certain objectives, and you've got to get back to your hive in time. So really interesting little game. Very difficult, I found, but interesting. And then number 5 is Starfish. This is probably the one that lets it down at the moment. It plays absolutely fine, and I have played all these games on stream before, and this one plays absolutely fine. It just, there's no progression for your ship, and I think if you're going to do a shoot 'em up, you have to have ship progression. You have to have, I get faster, get more powerful, get shields, I get something. Something has to happen, and it suffers from just having wave after wave of ship and then not much else happening, and the ships get very repetitive. And yeah, it's nice when it's done. It's good sound, and it's, you know, it looks nice, but I feel like it misses from having some sort of progression. Like I say, I did a live stream on it, which anytime I try and talk about videos, I will try and stick things up in the corner so people can click on those videos, if I can remember to do it all in the editing process. But there's definitely been live streams on these, and if you look back, you'll see a Commodore 64 homebrew live stream that I did maybe a couple of months ago. But yeah, to continue on the Commodore 64, we've moved away from the homebrew scene for the Commodore 64. There was definitely more. I've got loads more that I could show. But again, these are some pickups I got from the Retro Realm, obviously from my recent visit. I love these mini boxes. This is something I genuinely really enjoy picking up and playing. Yeah, this is the source. It's not the big box. It's kind of like these mini boxes. They're just so nice, and they often are in good condition. I think because they're smaller, the box is a lot more sturdier than, say, some of the big box games, and it's a thicker card, and they tend to stay together nicely. You don't often find they've been beaten up too much. So this looks really nice. But of course, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles on the Commodore 64, you know, one of those games that's impossibly hard. But of course, it looks great, right? I mean, you can't fault the colouring, the style. You can almost imagine that being on Woolworths shelves. In fact, I think that's where this is from. If I have a quick look, if I remember rightly, there is the receipt in here. I doubt I'll be able to pick it up on camera, but I want to take a look anyway. It's got all of the bits and pieces in here, but yes, there's the receipt. I will try and show it to you, but I don't think you'll pick it up. But as you can see there, you've got Woolworths at the top. I think you can just about make out Woolworths 3rd of the 4th 91, so 1991, and it was $4.99, and they paid £5 and they got a penny change. But yeah, that's a really cool thing. You can see on the back there, obviously, it is a full Woolworths receipt. That's a nice little thing to have in the game, isn't it? 1991. So yeah, I think that's a lovely. Just fantastic. That just really nice. So I'm really always check, because sometimes you do find the receipts are in the boxes of these games. Yes. Next up, we got RoboCop. How could you not? I don't own it in this kind of like big, well, sort of large case version. It is only one tape, but Robocop on the Commodore 64. Great little game, of course. And I love the fact that it has movie scenes on the back there. So yes, that's fantastic. This one, I wanted to pick up both of these. Again, much like, I don't know in order this video is, but in much like when I talk about JRPGs, I want to go back to give these games a try, because I definitely know I played and enjoyed these games when I was young, because you played what you had, right? You didn't get games constantly, so when you had a game, you played the hell out of it. So when both of these came up at the Retro Realm, I definitely wanted to pick these up as well. And the first one is, well, it's just there's 2 boxes of the Dizzy collection, essentially. Again, great artwork on that, and lots of fun. Obviously, the original Dizzy, Fast Food. What else is on here? Fantasy World Dizzy, Magic Land Dizzy, Treasure Island Dizzy, which is the one I think I remember playing the most, Treasure Island. And then the other box is just the other in the collection, which is the Excellent Adventures of Dizzy. So, again, classic little artwork. Dizzy Down the Rapids, Panic Dizzy, Quick Snacks, and they're not all the same. They're obviously different types of game. They're not all the like a venture game where you pick up items, put down items, pick up the next item, unlock the thing, move back and forth. There are different types of games as well. Spellbound Dizzy, which is definitely one I remember, and Dizzy Prince of Yolk Folk. Yeah, so again, I want to go back and give those games a try. So yes. Something else I picked up from the Realm was this. I already have one of these, so if you've ever seen one of my room tours, you'll know I have this. But when I saw that Scott had a spare one, because he got a boxed one, and the boxed one he's got is lovely, I said to him, would you be willing to sell me the other one? Because I like to have spares of these, because I want to make sure I've got one for a long time. And that is the Terminator Head joystick. And it has to be this variant. So I'm very particular. There is a variant of this joystick that has 2 buttons at the front. It has one on the right, one on the left. But this is the one I want, is the 1 button variant. Well, technically 2 buttons, because it has the head button as well, but it has the 1 red button in the corner. This is the joystick I actually had when I was a kid. I used to go and play at my mate's house on his Amiga 500, and also when I was playing on the Commodore at home, because I didn't have an Amiga until much later. I skipped all the generations and went straight to the Amiga 1200. Up until that point, I had a Commodore 64. So yeah, I now have a second one of these, and this one I'm actually going to use. I actually really want to use it when I'm sat at the Amiga, because it's just going to be such great memories. And unlike, if you know these joysticks, you'll know there's a Batman one, there's a Simpsons one, there's an Alien one, there's a bunch of others, and they're all completely unusable. The shape of them is ridiculous, and you're never going to be able to actually play. Where this one, believe it or not, is very ergonomically shaped for your hand. And it feels and fits really nice. You can play with this joystick. You know, your little finger under the chin there, the nose shape, the nose is curved in for your fingers to sit in. Obviously, your index finger on the fire button there. They put some thought into making this joystick. So while some people might say it looks ridiculous, it is a very functional, good joystick. It's a bit wobbly. But I played many hours of Kickoff 2, Sensible Soccer, Chaos Engine. I was going to say Cannon Fodder, but you play with your mouse. Loads of games that required joysticks I played with this. So I'm really happy to have another one in the collection now, so that I can try and keep these going. Keep one nice and keep one for playing is the plan. So yeah, that was another great little pickup from Scott. Got that there. Now I thought I'd jump into some Amiga games. Talking about the Amiga, let's talk about some of the stuff that I've picked up recently. And again, I'm not going to go crazy here, because I have an entire collection that I could go through that you've not seen, and I will show that in more of a deep dive when I go through these sessions. But I just picked out some games that, one, I thought you may not know about or played, but certainly I'm really happy to own. And they're great games to me. So just a few. So the first one is Fury of the Furries, which I think the front cover for this is so cool. Like that, I know it's a simple piece of artwork. It's not like the next one I'm going to show you has got crazy artwork. But I just think this is so striking. Like, he's almost the same size as my head. This is what I would look like if I had hair. But yeah, it's a really, if you've not played Fury of the Furries, I'm sure some of you have. It is a really cracking puzzle platformer where essentially you are playing the furries and you're freeing your furry friends. And each type of furry has a different power that you can use. Like, the green guy can shoot a rope out. The red guy can munch through the floor. I think this guy is the fireball guy, and the blue guy I think can swim in water. I'm trying to remember exactly. It goes out of my head every now and then. But it is a really fantastic game, and I really highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. I believe it runs on all versions of Amiga. Yes, it does. I don't think there's an AGA version. I think this is only. But even if you don't need AGA, it looks great on the Amiga. It plays great, and I seriously, if you're wanting to look into the Amiga, or you maybe have one of these, maybe you don't have a full-on Amiga 1200 or 600 or whatever. If you have the Amiga Mini, or you can fire up WinAUE for emulation, this is a game you should 100% check out to see the quality that you can get on the Amiga. Brilliant game, fantastic, highly recommend it. And I'm really glad to own a very nice copy. In fact, it's very complete. It's got everything in there, and it all looks almost like it's completely mint condition. In fact, I think it is. I don't know if anyone actually got it out of the box, which is a shame if they didn't, because that means they had an amazing game they never played, and shame on them. Next up, I had to show this game because this is my favourite point-and-click adventure of all time. Now, this is where everybody else in the world would show Monkey Island, or perhaps Indiana Jones, or one of the others. For me, and maybe this harks back again to my high fantasy love, is Simon the Sorcerer. And as I was talking about artwork before, I mean, the artwork on this is outstanding. Very, very Pratchett type-esque. Huge love of this game. I must admit, if I was going to play it today, I'd play the Amiga CD32 version, because then you get voice acting from Chris Barry, who was, of course, Rimmer in Red Dwarf, and actually did a whole bunch of stuff, but that's probably where most people heard that name from. It's the voice acting is fantastic, and it helps you play the game because you're not reading so much of the text. It adds a whole new level to that game. But if you've not played a point-and-click adventure, or you want to check one out, Simon the Sorcerer is it for me. I've completed this several times, and there are sequels, and I'm not so much of a well, no, I'm not going to say that. Actually, the sequels are fine. Simon the Sorcerer 2 was also fine, and then they've done loads more. I haven't played any. I don't think I've played anything beyond that. I think they did do a whole bunch of others, and I think they're even talking about a remake, re-release of another Simon the Sorcerer game. But certainly, if you've not played the first one and you have a way of playing it, and again, like me talking about, don't close your door to games. If point and click adventures are maybe thinking it's not my type of thing, you've never really tried one, this is a good one to go for. This is really fun. Of course, there's Monkey Islands and others, but Simon the Sorcerer is a classic, fantastic game, and I really would recommend it. Also, did pick up some homebrew. Now, there is a homebrew scene for the Amiga. It's a much smaller scene than, say, the Commodore or 64 or the Spectrum, but there are some games out there. And again, I have some more that I haven't shown yet, and I will get around to going through those and doing reviews of the game and Let's Plays and so on, because I've done some. Rogue 64, actually, I haven't picked it up. I don't know why I haven't shown it to you, but that is one that I did a recent play of, and fantastic. But unfortunately, I've had to make my own version of it because the boxed copy that came out, they did a really limited run of it, and I didn't get hold of it. So, but I am in the wait list to get that. So when I get it, I will show you through it. But when I saw this in the Retro Realm, I picked it up. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I just jumped at it because if and when you do see physical copies of homebrew games on things like the Amiga, if you're in that world, you've got to grab it because they just don't exist for very long. And this one is called Turbo Tomato. So I can't tell you right now whether this is a good game or not. But it looks fun. It looks silly. And as you can see, it looks to be almost like mini games and stuff. So it's from the Bitmap Soft people, which I'm not the biggest fan of, to be frank, because I've had a number of issues with them in the past. But fingers crossed this is okay. So yeah, I mean, inside you get a nice little again, as I was saying earlier, with the Switch games, you get nothing in this one. You've got a full color manual, you've got a poster, you've got some little stickers. This one's like a little magnetic sticker that's literally sitting on the disc, so I don't know how happy about that I am. It's probably nicely erased the disc for me. It's probably not that strong a magnet, but you know what I mean. A little sticker of a tomato, and then a lovely little, given the theme is all red, a lovely little red floppy disk. So that's you know, kudos for that. They've at least done some nice things there. I probably wouldn't have stuck a metal fridge magnet in. That's just me, you know. Hey, but yeah. So I picked this up because, like I say, I don't know where this, I don't know what this is going to be like. I will do a proper review on it and give you my thoughts. But when you're out and about, if you see Amiga Homebrew, just out in the world, you pick it up because this is probably going for good money on eBay if I try to get it. Not that that's why I ever pick things up. I very rarely ever, if anything, sell anything. I take it to Scott and the Realm if I don't fancy it anymore. And the last one I'll show you, just because it's this game has had a new lease of life for me, and I'm genuinely loving it. And that is Worms, which is, you're all going to go, oh, Worms, yeah, like woohoo. Man, I can't tell you how much fun I've had with this game. Again, doing live streams, changing all of the, creating teams, and then changing all the names to your friends or YouTubers or people I've made acquaintance through this channel and stuff like that, and then just doing almost like commentary over the top whilst you're playing. It's been so much fun. I've genuinely loved it. I've had some really magic fun moments of your friend trying to shoot someone and then it backfiring and hitting one of their own teammates, and just really funny things happening, rivalries, and having them play out and stuff. Like the Worms game, and especially the early Worms game. I know there is better versions of Worms, and there's loads of them. In fact, obviously the one I've been playing is the director's cut of this game, just because they added some nice little tweaks. But yeah, Worms on the Amiga, brilliant, just absolutely brilliant, absolutely love it, and I'm going to be doing more of this year. These kind of like YouTuber wars, friends battles, all this sort of stuff. I just had so much fun, and it makes me laugh so much. I had to show that I've got a big box copy of Worms now. It's nothing special inside, and probably to people watching, it means nothing. But if you've not played Worms, you should play it. And if you've not tried going through and customizing all the teams and creating family and friends and all this, and then just playing it out, it's definitely worth doing it. Like I say, maybe it's just me, but it makes me laugh a lot. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, the last thing I'll show, because I kind of mentioned it before, is the Neo Geo MVS mini console that I picked up. This has sparked an idea. Like, so this is completely influenced by Alex Arcade telling me to pick this up. Well, not telling me to pick one, showing me that he picked one up, and then me seeing him playing it and going, "Oh, Neo Geo is a special thing." I don't know about you, but Neo Geo when I was a kid was something you never even dreamed of owning. Like, that wasn't something normal people had. It was something that extremely rich people had, and even then, like, it was very rare. I don't think I knew anybody with one. But we did have a market, and I've told this story before. Certainly, my friends are probably bored of hearing this story. But it was a market near us, an indoor market, and at the back right of this market, there was quite a large stall area, and this guy or team that were there had a stall that sold both the boards, like the actual arcade boards, and then also the carts as well for the various Neo Geo setups that you could have. And they'd have a couple of TVs, and they'd have like King of Fighters on there or Metal Slug on there and stuff like that. And it was just that stall drew a crowd, even though no one was buying anything. very. I mean, you'd get the odd person who'd walk in and buy something. You'd be like, oh my god, that person, they must be a celebrity or something. You know, they're buying an actual arcade board, or they're buying a Neo Geo game or something. But it drew a crowd because everything looked so cool. The games looked so cool. You know, King of Fighters was so, it felt so different to Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. I don't know why it had an allure to it. It just felt like, oh, that's what the big boys play. You know, that's what the because I was a little kid back then. That's what the grown ups are playing. We're playing Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat. But if you're like a well-to-do, you know, guy who's got a lot of money, you're playing King of Fighters. That's where you're at. You're playing Samurai Showdown, these types of games. So yeah, it has a place in my mind and my heart of being really special. So when I saw this, I thought this gives me a little glimpse into that world. But it has triggered something completely new, and that is that I think this year I want to kind of meld my two worlds together. So my miniature world with my gaming world, video gaming world, and not necessarily using this because this is the wrong kind of size and shape and all the rest of it. But I'm going to build a mini arcade. So I have a spot from right in front of me here, like a nice empty shelving area, where in there I'm gonna build like an 80s arcade. So I mean carpeted, walled, and then get the replica. I don't know what size scale they are, but you can get some really nice detailed arcade cabs. Like I mean, they have everything. They have the coin operation. They have the door in the back. They have the light up marquees. They've got everything. So that's something I would love to do and build, and I can 3D print like little benches. I can even paint some people to be in there to be playing in the arcade, but I can do some neon lighting. I can do all sorts. And I want to build a little diorama, as it were, to that era of gaming, and bring in my miniature and my painting and my creation type world to my video gaming world, and marry those two in that. And that was kind of inspired by seeing this, really. And this wouldn't work because obviously this looks nothing like an actual arcade. This is more for playing with. But yeah, just talk about this. Obviously, it's loaded with Neo Geo games. I think there's about 40 games on here. It's got HDMI on the back, so you can hook it up to your TV, and it's just what it is. It's a little arcade for you to play your games on. So yeah, a nice little fun thing. But so that is it. That was a pickups video from me, and I'd love to get your thoughts below on whether that was good, bad, or otherwise. Because if people like that, then I'll do some more. You know, like I say, I've got plenty of more things I could have shown, more board games, video games, miniatures, homebrew, modern, retro, all those sorts of things. So yeah, look, I'll look for some feedback because it is. If I do them, I'll try and keep them more regular so the backlog doesn't build up too hugely. There's some things I need to change on my end around not being so eager to sort of put things away, like try and make a reminder that those things are there. But I could have gone through tons. I've got loads of bits I could have shown, but I just kind of tried to make it a bit more sort of narrowed down. But if you're interested, maybe hit the like button. And I know it sounds awful, but the like button lets me know that you like the video. That's kind of obvious. And the comment section helps me understand if that's the sort of thing you like. And then I'll do more of this type of thing. So I know it sounds like a really corny thing to say, but it is the way the system works. It's by you telling me, then I know to keep doing this sort of stuff. So yeah, please do that. I mean, a couple of things going on. Obviously, I'm going to keep doing the Monday Night Retros. They went down really well, and people have said they'd like to see them continue. So I'm going to keep doing that. The podcast is doing great, so I'd love people to get involved with the podcast and let us know your feedback on that. You can find it all on the channel, or by searching for it. We've got another one coming out very soon. And yeah, otherwise, I hope you had a lovely Christmas, a great New Year. This is the first video of the new year. Yeah, I'll catch you soon, I hope. But yeah, let me know about pickups videos in general. Was this the sort of thing you liked? Did you enjoy this? I don't know how long it is, but hopefully I entertained you for maybe an hour, and there'll be more in the future. All right, cheers all, catch you soon. Bye bye.